we're going to get started on our final profit planner, the Vineyard P&L and cash flow workbook. So I'm just going to run through very quickly, and Tim can take over and get you started into the workbook. So just a couple of housekeeping issues. All attendees are going to be kept on mute. That said, you can type in questions on the chat in the question tool taskbar area. So please feel free to do that and keep that coming through. The webinar will be recorded and we will have it up on our website at the end of the day. We are also going to send out a follow-up email and survey with the link to the webinar and to other resource documents as well. So please fill out that survey and let us know how effective this tool is for you and how you found the lecture. You all know who I am, Bree Stock. I'm the Education Manager with the Oregon Wine Board, and Tim Hanai is our wonderful developer of this program and educator, and he is going to run through very quickly now this workbook with you. The Profit Planner overview has been developed by the Education Committee as a response to industry needs survey, and we are hoping that you'll all be able to explore financial implications across all of the main key areas of your vineyard and winery business more effectively and for better profit management with this tool. Please check back in and also keep in mind that we're going to send this out in the grapevine, and please reach out if you have any problems at all throughout this process or with any questions you have with the tool. Reach out to me directly. My email is Bree, B-R-E-E, @oregonwine.org. Without further ado, I am going to hand this across now to Tim. I believe we have everyone checked in. And if you do need to request access to the Profit Planner now, just go to our industry.oregonwine.org site and click on the Education menu. The Profit Planner drop-down is in there, and you'll be able to log on to the site, and we will be approving attendees and requesting access as we go through this webinar. So if you don't have access, please do so now, and this is the steps to using the Profit Planner. And here comes Tim with the workbook and case study for today.
And we should be live. Hi, everybody. This is Tim Hanai from beautiful Bend, Oregon, looking out over our snowy landscape. And a little bit of background about this program. Almost 30 years ago, I started to teach about wine from a supply chain and value chain approach so that people could learn about wine and not only what goes into it aesthetically and if you had all the money in the world, but what are the financial implications of certain decisions and how do you balance profitability against the best possible quality. And we originally started with some workbooks and turned those into spreadsheets. And initially this was all for educational purposes, but we found that, wow, we could actually make these professional level workbooks for helping run businesses and understand finances. Our intention is to make these easy to use, fun, and something that you can return to over time. There are a lot of sort of online planners and calculators, but our profit planners, you're able to create as many projects as you like, name them, return to them, clone them, and revise them. So we're very excited about this. Then also really quickly, we're working with many universities around the country. We just had the first intercollegiate wine business competition that was won by Oregon's Linfield College. We had 14 teams from 6 universities, literally all across the US, using these workbooks. So we're starting to implement these from the ground up so that people coming into the industry have a much better idea of the numbers and the finances behind every area of the business. Now, this week we've been taking a little bit of a backwards approach. We started with the tasting room planner. That was Tuesday. On Wednesday, we did the cost of goods and pricing planner. Yesterday, we did the marketing and portfolio management. And today, we're finishing at the beginning with the Vineyard. So to access the program, you simply go to industry.oregonwine.org. And the only time you'll really need to do this to access is the first time. And go to Education and Oregon Wine Profit Planner and click on that. It'll then take you to the landing page for the program. If you've received your login credentials, you can just go straight to the login. If you have not yet, click on Request Access and we'll get you set up pronto. This is also the page that has tutorials, resources, and over time, increasingly, we'll have FAQ kind of things for this. So it's the go-to site. So when you go to the site, you just click Login, and you will see this page. Spreadsheet Server is the name of our servers and the technology we're using. You enter in your email address that you use to sign up for the course, put in the password that was sent to you or generated when you received your approval. If you cannot find the password, if you lose the password, there's a very simple forgot password function. So if you know that you're signed up, but you can't find the email that had your password, just use this function. Use the email address that you signed up for the program, and it's easy to get in. When you sign in, you will be first presented with this. This is called the auto filter, and it's where we have a pull down with all the workbooks that you have available. And as you can see, there's the marketing and sales, portfolio management, the tasting room, a pricing calculator, and the cost of goods workbook. We've recorded webinars so that if you weren't on the previous webinars and want to take a look, go watch the video and open one of these up, and you can play along with the video. Today we're going to go into the Vineyard P&L and cash flow workbook. Now it's going to ask me what I want to do with this, and I'm going to want to create a new one. All right, so I'm going to open new. So this is your first step. And this is what the workbooks look like. Across the top of the page here are all the, this is the toolbar for saving, saving as a PDF. Later I'll show you how to clone your work and so forth, okay? One of the things you can also do is select keep in the edit mode if you like, and a couple of other things. The next line across here are the different tabs for each workbook. In this case, we've got 4. So we've got sheet 1 is project info, then we'll go through expenses, establishment costs, and then the profit and cash flow. A lot of the use of this program, initially, there's going to be a lot of things that you might not know. You'll just have to make your best educated guess on things. But if you work collaboratively with your accountant, with your bookkeeper, with your vineyard manager, maybe you are the vineyard manager, once you start to get the numbers filled in, over time you can clone your projects and create new ones. You can do all sorts of things, and you can then keep them as PDFs and share them, use them for your budgeting meetings, your forecasting meetings, those kind of things, okay? So the first thing to know is how do you save your work? Because the work is not saved on your computer, it's saved on our server. And for anybody with any questions about end users agreement or terms of service and privacy, at the bottom of the first page, we've got a couple of links here so that you can read. Oregon Wine Board does not have access to your data. We do not share your data. We do not access your workbooks. It's So just simply, your information is safe and nobody has access to it but us, of course, because we're the software software as a service provider, but we have a zero tolerance for accessing anybody's workbooks or looking into them. So when I open a new project, what I'm going to want to do is put in my Vineyard name, and we'll call this Bend Vineyard. And if this is a certain number of blocks or a maybe sort of Pinot Noir, I could say Pinot Noir, using the feminine, Pinot Noir block 3 through 6 or something like that. Whatever you need to do. My name is Tim, and put in the date. And this is important to put in. If you ever have a problem, if you need to locate a project that you can't find, I'll talk about that in a second. You want this information in there, and now we're ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this work, all right, and then I'm going to bookmark it. It's going to take just a second for this to load up. And the way you get back to a program is from this URL. So this workbook in the Profit Planner portfolio is re-accessed by going to this URL, okay? And if you're using different computers, you'll also want to be able to email this to yourself or have it available. If you want to share your account, some people do, some people don't. You need to share this URL for people that you want access to it, or if you're leaving work and you want to get to it while you're traveling on your laptop or home versus office, this is what you need to get back. Now on the primary computer, what I'm going to do to make sure that all this is done correctly, I'm going to simply hit Control D. Or I can go to my bookmarks bar, I can select bookmark, and then what I want to do is identify this. Oops, hang on a second. It looks so simple. All right, so clicking on this, I want to name this Bend Vineyard Pinot Noir 3 through 6. Give it an identifier so that you can find it, especially if you're going to make several different projects and types of projects. And then what I've done is I've created a folder on my browser favorites bar, bookmarks bar. And then what I want to do is I've got to go in and then find that in the folder. And there's my OWB, and I'm done. Okay? I want to double check this. I want to make sure that it shows up. And there it is right there, Bend Pinot Noir PN36. Usually I'll put a date on it also. You can run tests, you can run scenarios. And if you don't need the workbook anymore, you can simply remove it from your favorites. We'll actually keep a copy of it that anything can be re-accessed, but now we're good to go, okay? So now that I've set this up, I'm going to be, after I save it, if the edit button is showing, you're allowed to go back to the auto filter to look at different workbooks or open a new one. I can save it as a PDF. I can start a new project, and I can clone this. The value of clone, let's say that I'm running my numbers, the finals for 2018, and I'm going back and I'm putting in real numbers that I know were part of my vineyard operations. And if I want to then run a forecast for 2019, I can simply clone the project, rename it, resave it again. It'll be a new URL. And then I'll be ready to go in and make any changes for 2019 or look how I can improve my profitability and those kind of things. All right. You can also save this as a PDF. It'll go into your downloads or however you've got your save as set up. I keep a file just for my PDF versions of this. Then you can email it to your accountant. You can and discuss it. You can print copies to use at meetings with your team or whatever you need to do. Okay, so that's a basic functionality, how to open and save and do this. All right, and if there are any questions, go ahead and ask them via chat at any time, and we'll address them as we go to the best of our ability. All right, so now we're getting into the meat of it and inputs. Whenever you see these highlighted fields, these are input fields. When you see this plus and minus, this is called a stepper. Now, we don't have a lot of them on this program. In many of the programs, we've got a lot of different steppers. And so basically what this does is we've got this set up at 4 tons per acre at $3,000 a ton for 25 acres. Now notice when I'm going over these, I'm getting a no sign. I'm clicking and it's not letting me in. I need to make sure that I hit edit and that now I'm in the editable mode for this. A real quick thing, when I want to close my work, I just leave the site. I like to put autosave on, and then I also like to hit save when I quit. However, if in almost every case, once you go off this page or close this, it'll autosave anyways, and it'll be in your workbook. So when I want to revisit this program to work on it again after it's been closed, what I'll want to do is go into my favorites or go to my note where I've got my URL and then open it from there. Okay, so that's how you save and re-access. All right, so with my numbers, we will be providing a running dashboard, if you will, but this is the full dashboard. Your expenses, annual expenses per acre, your expense total for the vineyards, the gross income per acre, and gross income total. And then over here are establishment costs per acre, your total for the 25 acres, your harvest costs, your gross margin, and then your per acre, and then total. All right. So what we're trying to provide is a number of the key metrics, and as you run scenarios, you'll be able to look at different ways to see this. Now, also, what we think is very cool, if we are at a gross margin per acre of 38.60, this is just sort of a forecasting guide to show me what different scenarios might look like at different yields and at different price per ton. So if I look in here, I look for the positive numbers, and I can see I start to make a little bit of money at $2,000 a ton and 2 tons, given these expenses, and these expenses are low. As we increase the expenses and become more realistic, we can go back here and we'll see things will be shifting kind of this way, looking for our break-even point. You can also put in more specific, maybe that you're saying, okay, I know I get $2,700 a ton, and that I'm getting 3.4 tons, and put that in, and then that will rerun the numbers and show us where everything moved to. All right, so this is now based on my own inputs, and you can do it low or you can do it high. Okay. All right. So where these numbers are then driven from are very much related to your yield, your price per ton, and your number of acres. So if I want to see what squeezing out a little bit more tonnage is going to do, as you can see, it's updating everything here and below as I step this up. Or if I'm I got a short crop. If I didn't get a great fruit set, I can go down and say, okay, I had forecast for this amount, but now it's looking like we're going to be lucky to get this amount, and so forth. If there are fluctuations in grape prices, you can say, okay, it looks like we're going to get $3,200 a ton for it this year. And when you input that, again, it'll update everything. And then if your new acreage is coming online, or if you have some acreage that's going offline for replanting or whatever, you can move this up or down. And then when you put that in, it'll show you the impact on your bottom line immediately. Okay? So this is the project info page with the key inputs. There's only 3 and a couple more if you want to play with them. And then we go to the expenses tab. We have this broken down into several different sections. Notice that it's transferred our 3 tons per acre. It's showing us our harvesting cost per ton, freight, taxes, and fees, and then anything else that you need to add in to come up with your harvest cost. And this is per acre, and this is total vineyard harvest cost. And we try to provide some relative benchmarks, but to be honest, it's so variable. It really is up to you to do a little bit of research, and again, work with your accountants to find out what the correct prices are. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my 4 tons per acre on this. Okay. There we go, and go into my expenses. And then we're going to look at labor. And we've got a couple ways to do this. We've got vineyard manager or managers. So if you've got a manager, a foreman, a VP, whatever, you would put in management payroll in here. Any full-time labor you keep, you can add into here. And then you can put in a guesstimate or actual of percentage of benefits that they get. And then you'll get your full-time labor costs captured. You might have consultants, you might have management fees, those can go in. And then we also have additional labor breakouts that are up to you. If you can put all the numbers in here, that's great, but you might also want to take a look at individual things that you need and how much you pay for them by hour, so that if I've got people out hand pruning for 12 hours, I put that in, and it's again going to then give me totals and so forth. So it'll give you, it gets down to a lot of detail into the hours that you put in. Next is going to be nutrition costs, and you might just have a single number. A lot of accountants will wrap up the numbers and say, here's what you had for all of these. We look at it in pounds per acre, but look at the price per unit in tons. You can make whatever math differential if you're using pounds and so forth. But how much of what product, how many times are you using it, and then it'll break it down into a cost per acre. And obviously some things are more expensive, some things are less, some things you won't use. But it also gets down to things like your leaf tests, your soil kits, and that kind of thing. And then if you have any other thing that needs to go into this area, you can add it as you feel necessary. Then the other thing is, if you're doing fungicides, insecticides, or so forth, that goes in here. And then machinery. If you own your own machinery, you can actually put it in the other if you've got a way to look at this is incorrect on the hours per acre. So, but this is Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is still the labor that goes into any of these. So whatever you have to do and whatever it costs per hour, including machine harvesting and anything else you want to go in. And then we come to the always popular irrigation, water costs and pumping, how many gallons per acre, what's the cost, and then if you need to add anything else, you can put that in. So this will give you a good handle on your expenses. You can also add any debt service. This would be annual, what you're paying the bank, any lease payment, taxes, insurance, and so forth. So this should be a gross annual number, and then we'll break it down into the allocation. So if I'm paying $5,000 a year, that will end up per acre costing me $250 an acre per year, and that'll add that then into my expenses if I choose to see those. Okay, so that's that page. And then next we go on to the establishment costs. Now, establishment costs are optional. Certainly if you're planning a new vineyard, if you want to go through the work and understand what these are, it's also a great educational tool. But it allows you to put these numbers in, and it doesn't have a direct impact on your P&L, but it will obviously give you what you need to know in terms of how much this whole thing costs. So we've got your cost per acre, we've got fields for depreciation where it's appropriate. And then we think we've done a really great job of coming up with a thorough range of costs: ponds, dams, water rights, soil moisture equipment, other, in preparing the land, clearing and grading, soil survey. Now also remember that you might have some revenue from logging or something like that. So we've also got a way to offset that, your survey soils, your trellis materials. And this field over here is your residual value, so that in the event that you need to do tax work, or if you're preparing to sell the vineyard and whatever, you've got your residual value here as well after depreciation. Okay? All the way down to survey, marking out, and then an other field as you need. Planting, labor, plant material, how much per vine, how many vines per acre, amounts for vine training, and then of course other, and then any kind of sheds, fencing, windbreaks, roadways, large equipment, tractor purchases, machinery and tools, rentals, and lease. Okay, and so that'll give you your subtotal for every category. It'll give you your per acre cost over here, and then your total vineyard costs here. And this would be the actual cost to establish per acre. This would be then the depreciation value, the residual value, which is residual is salvage for resale value after depreciation in event of selling, or if you need to do something for tax reasons. So that is the establishment costs, and then we get to profit and cash flow. Obviously, a new vineyard is going to start at zero. There will be a lot of upfront costs. So in this column, we basically give you the breakdown of what those costs are going to be. And it's not showing up completely here, but you can see $730,000 for the vineyard. And then we've got your created an ability. So if it's a fully functional producing vineyard, you can just put in what your anticipated yield is. If you're starting up, when do you think you will have some crop of value, and then step it up until you're in full production. Now, these are these all work in conjunction with these numbers up here. And by the way, at the top of every page, you're going to see your gross income per acre, your margin per acre, and your gross margin total. All right, so these are at the top of every page. All right, somehow this got squished a little bit. We'll get that taken care of. Any additional income, if over time you're leasing part of it, or have a structure that you rent, or if you're in Oregon and you're growing diverse crops, you can throw those in there. It'll give you your total income based on the yield from these areas, or from those fields. And then it'll also give you what your expenditures are. And you can also put in variable costs. Some people like to add 2% a year for inflation. You might know that there's certain variables upcoming, so we can accommodate that. And then any subsequent capital purchases can go in here as well. So this then gives you your expenditures. And then the final is your profitability analysis over a 10-year period. And you can then go through and find out, given all the numbers and the amounts that we've put in, we achieve a break even at 11 years. And again, we can go back and say, well, that's totally unrealistic. So we can go in and say, what do we need to adjust if we plant more acreages, if we're able to squeeze a little bit more yield out, and those kind of things. So that's part of the forecasting element and the value. The other thing is that a lot of times that you're not going to have your debt service or lease payments in there. So if you take out those kind of things and then you go to your profit and cash flow, you'll be a little bit more profitable a little bit more quickly. But this will give you a good idea of, given these scenarios, when you're going to start being able to make money on your investment. So that's the program. Now I'm going to save this, all right? And so I've got that saved. It'll come up like this, and then it'll think for a minute and populate it. And there we are. I can also then go in and work on another workbook. For example, this is my Pinot Noir cost of goods. And when it comes up, it shows me what I've been working on with that. And notice, again, this has to be bookmarked to be able to get back to it. And then in a couple days later tonight, when I get home, if I want, I can go back into my Bend Vineyard. It will load up, and we should be good to go. And that's what I've got. And I'd be absolutely delighted to answer any questions that anybody might have, or clarify any areas.
Thanks for that, Tim. Great workbook and great case study there. We're putting out a call for questions, so if anyone has any questions, please send them through to us now, and we can answer them or have Tim answer them as soon as possible.
And then while we're saying that, also for the Oregon Wine Symposium, I'll be there and conducting some demos and working with Bree, so that we'll have an area and a display that you can come over, and we can also take you through it live that way.
Excellent. Yes, we'll have Tim set up at his own station, and we'll be taking people through the workbooks. So come with your prepared workbooks or any questions that you have for Tim at the symposium. And we might take the presenter view back now, Tim, and we'll run through the end of the presentation and follow up if we have any questions come through. Actually, we do have one question. The question is, if we have multiple blocks with different yields/costs, It sounds like we need to use different worksheets for each one. Is that right?
Yes, that is. Or again, you can average the yield for, look at historically what's been the average of all combined. But if you do have different blocks, that's where the clone feature becomes really valuable, because you can set up your costs for all of your operations, and then clone it to do a separate block or a separate variety, and then go in and adjust everything to what percentage of the total that represents and what that yield is, and so forth. And the really nice thing is, again, if you've got 4 or 5 blocks, by using the clone feature, you'll have all those set up, and then you'll sort of have your master workbook as well.
Great, thanks, Tim. Okay, we'll just wrap this up in the next few minutes and move through into the rest of the presentation very quickly. So again, this is just a reminder for those out there who may be new to the industry website and our education offerings on the industry website. The Profit Planner can be accessed through our industry.oregonwine.org website. There's a drop-down tab, or there's a title tab that lists our different resources and departments. And if you click on the Education tab, there'll be a drop-down menu that comes up with the Oregon Wine Profit Planner. Click on that, and it will bring up the login screen that you're seeing now. Click on the Login button or the Request Access button, and that will take you through to either request access or to your former saved username and email profiles. This is what that page will look like. And you can save that on your computer as well so that it will remember your password. And then it will take you through to the workbooks. And remember that you have that auto filter to select your project or select new if you're starting from scratch.
Oh, and there is also a set of instructions that you might want to print out or save, especially for the first couple times you go through. I know we all love to just work it out ourselves, but it's really good to, when you get your password and package for signing up, you will have a PDF of how to log in, how to save, all those things.
Yeah, exactly. And so utilize that PDF, and then also use the tutorials and resources that we have in the Oregon Wine Profit Planner page on the website. So the tutorials will be there, and that will be the PDF offering, and also these saved webinars and any additional videos or workshops that we come up with. And same for the related resources. We're highlighting here some of the previous symposium workshops. We'll continue to add those to these related resources, and we'll continue to add any additional workshops that we have or Oregon Wine Board funded research that comes through the OSU or other educational departments. Finally, don't forget the Oregon Wine Symposium is coming up in February. It's on the 12th and 13th of February. If you register before January 15th, the early bird pricing is still available. And we do have a seminar dedicated to using the workbooks, and it's on the bottom line, how understanding COGS can increase your profitability. So be sure to attend that seminar and bring any questions you have from the workbooks. And any questions you have for the accountants about the best construction of your COGS and following COGS for profitability. We will be following up this webinar with an email that contains a survey link and registration for the symposium, and also will include any additional resources that we have for the Vineyard Profit and Loss workbooks. Thanks again for joining us, and if there's no final questions, we will tap out.
Oh, Bree, let me make one more point. We've been going through the workbooks and also taking questions and also making some updates on the fly. We are going to be this weekend completely revising, updating all the workbooks. So please go in and start to play with them. But if you can wait till Monday before you start with your serious input work, that'll make sure you're working on the newest version, and we'll have that up and ready to go first thing Monday morning.
Great, thanks, Tim. And just a reminder for everyone out there listening as well, please tell your colleagues about this if you think it would be of use to them in their business, and remind them that we will be having the entire series of the 4 Profit Planner workbooks that were recorded this week sent out in the grapevine next week. And you can link to the calculators, the access requests, the Profit Planner workbooks, and all of the webinars and resources from there. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or recommendations for improvement. We're continually updating and editing these tools as we get feedback from the industry. So we really value that feedback, and we try to respond immediately to your requests. So please keep them coming. Again, my email is bree@oregonwine.org, and we'll continue to deliver, hopefully, these very useful increasing profitability tools to you. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you at Symposium.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bree.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye-bye.